Right. Welcome to the Better Together podcast, real talk for people building real businesses. We believe in business growth doesn't just happen in isolation, but it's built through connection, collaboration, and the courage to keep showing up. I'm Kelly Sundsvold, and I'm joined by my partner and co host and co owner of Gold Bear Media, Shawn Sundsvold. And today's episode is one you won't want to miss. Today, we're honored to welcome a powerhouse in business strategy and communication, Richard Weylman. Richard is a Hall of Fame speaker, best-selling author, and globally recognized expert on customer experience and marketplace differentiation. With a remarkable backstory, having overcome adversity as an orphan, Richard went on to lead luxury brands and advise Fortune 500 companies. He even was inducted into the Customer Experience Hall of Fame. His insights have been featured in Forbes, The Wall Street Journal, and Success Magazine, and his focus on emotional connectivity and elevating customer value has transformed thousands of businesses worldwide. He's here to talk to us not just about strategy, but about the deeper story behind meaningful business growth, how we show up, serve, and connect. So let's get right to it. Welcome, Richard.
Thank you,
Appreciate you
Kelly. It's
taking
great
the
to be with
time.
you both. Thank you.
So your journey has really started with some real adversity. Can you share a bit about your background and how that shaped your approach to leadership and business? I'll just dive right in.
Yeah, interesting question. My parents died when my mother died when I was 5. My dad died when I was 6, year and 2 weeks later. And, so my brother and sister and I, who's 3 of us, we were put into foster care. And my, brother lived in foster homes, my sister did. Actually, she lived with my aunt primarily and took care of her children. And then I lived in 19 foster homes, went to 11 different schools. So, that was back in the day that they would, the social worker would drop you off, and then after a couple of months, they'd come and talk to, "How's he doing?" "Oh, he's really growing attached." Boom, they'd move you immediately because I wasn't up for adoption. Uh, so, uh, uh, but, you have a choice. You either become a victim or you move forward. And so on my 18th birthday, I got dropped off, at a boarding house in, Rochester, New York, with a $20 bill, and they said, "The rent's paid for the month here. You have a room, and, good luck to you." So that was
Wow.
really the beginning. That whole, shall we say, chapter of my life really, not knowing it at the time, really helped me to realize that the way to be able to move forward is you have to continue to not be a victim, as I mentioned, but you really have to say, "Okay, what's next for me?" And the very first thing is I got a job in the morning, and then I got a job that afternoon, and then I had a night job. So I had 3 jobs, and I pushed really, really hard to move forward. I went into the military. I was in there 3 years, 8 months, and 11 days. Everybody that's ever been in can tell you how long they were in. I was in the Navy. Uh, Even in the Navy, I sold cookware door to door, encyclopedia, cemetery plots, family Bibles. Well, I sold those together, cemetery plots and family Bibles. So I did a lot of things there, and all of those things just helped me to realize that business is really about people. It's not about product. It's about how
Mm-hmm.
relationships or the lack thereof has an influence on your life. The people in foster homes, most of them were very, most of them had foster children. In the one sense, they wanted to be caring. On the other sense, the remuneration they got from the state was helpful for their lifestyle too. And so I don't begrudge them anything, but I began to realize that how important relationships really were. And so that really became the central focus of my business actions, if you will.
I can imagine how relationships became so important to you based on like the amount of relationships that you had growing up. So was there a pivotal moment where you realized your story could actually serve others in business?
Oh, that's an interesting question. No one's ever asked me that, and I've done many, many interviews. Well, I can tell you there was a pivotal moment in my life. And I was about 11 years old, as I remember. I was living in a foster home in upstate New York, and I lived in the basement. I was on a cot in the basement. And up there, they have a thing called daylight basements where the house is stacked so you can get outside. And it's actually daylight. It's not like a dungeon basement. You have it. So, and it was snowing. It was really cold. It was Christmas time. And I went out. I slipped out the door at night, and it was a dead-end street, and across the street was a doctor lived across the street, and a dentist was next door, and I looked in the windows, and the Christmas trees were all lit up, etc. And the family I was living with had told me they were going to Myrtle Beach for Christmas, but they were just taking their real kids, and they were going to
Gosh.
drop me off with a couple in Fairport, New York, and I would be going there in the morning for a couple of weeks. So, okay, it's just how it is. So, but I slipped out that night and I looked in the windows of these two houses, particularly the doctor, decorated so nice. And I thought, someday I'm going to have a place of my own and nobody's going to tell me I'm going to have to sleep in a basement. And that was really kind of, well, I'll tell you, all the foster they always took in. I was baptized everything but Jewish. I mean, it was unbelievable. Every place I go, I got baptized Catholic 3 times, and it was just incredible. Every time you went, you had to anyway, which is fine. God bless them.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm a faith, so now I get it. But what was really interesting, I think, about it was that I sat on the fence post and looked into that house with a beautiful Christmas tree and that doctor, lovely family. And I could see them around the tree, and it was like 2 days or 3 days, 4 days before Christmas, maybe. And I remember it just popped in my head, a scripture I'd heard, God is the father of the fatherless. Yeah,
And you
it's,
were 11.
it's going to be okay.
S-
And that,
Yeah.
and the next summer, I got a job picking strawberries for 3 cents a quart. And I start saving my money. I bought a transistor radio, paid $7 for it. I was living in the attic in a whole nother part of upstate New York. And I lived in the attic, and it had a coat hanger on it, and I put it outside as an antenna to that transistor radio, and I listened to Fort Wayne, Indiana, whoa, whoa radio, 100,000 watts of clear channel power. And I would listen to it at night, and there was a guy that came on, and their theme song was Home on the Range. Never has heard a discouraging word, and the sky is not cloudy all
Cloudy
day.
all day.
And man, I hung on to that for years.
Wow. And all that revelation kind of like at 11, like you were definitely, I mean, you know, starting in foster care at 6 and having that realization at 11, I'm sure that just really just shaped your life.
Well, it served me well in the military, and then when I got out, Xerox in those days, and I was working in bursting, decollation, and reproduction. That's when we used to have carbon paper and all, a nightmare from the computer
Yeah.
center was massive, my back
Yes.
separating the carbon.
Yes.
I had the night shift. I had 2 jobs in the morning and then a night shift, and so anyhow, but there was a guy named his name was Bob Clays, and he was a programmer. I became fri I was decollating, taking all the carbon out of his programming. So we became friends. Just, and so, I said, "Well, Bob, what are you working on? You're in here all the time and you're pounding on that table." So I'm trying to write a program for customer billing. He said, I've got a lot of schooling and it's really, really hard. So I said, well, I don't know anything about it, but show me. I'm really good with math. So we sat down. I said, well, what? So anyhow, I sat there on our breaks, and then he came over to the house, and on a weekend we wrote the billing program that Xerox still uses today, the base of it.
Wow.
And,
Wow.
I got several promotions real quick. I was running the Northeast region billing, and I had 20 some people working for me. And, it was a great promotion. I mean, it was great. I was
Mhm.
making great money and single. And I was like, nah, I'm not going to do this. So I went in and just one morning I said, yeah, I'm done. And they were like,
Yeah.
you can't resign. What do you mean? You're next promotion. You're going to be a vice president here in a couple of years. I said, no. They said, well, what are you going to do? We'll make a counteroffer. I said, I think I'm gonna get a job. I think I looked in the paper and I saw a job where I could sell dust mops and Daco rugs door to door to small businesses, and I think that's what I wanna do. And they were like, "What is wrong with you?" I said, Nothing." So I did. I went to work for Coin Industrial Laundry, and I had my '63 Volkswagen. I had dust mops strapped in the back and a thing crammed full of, and I went door to door and sold them. And to small businesses in upstate New York. And one of my customers was a Porsche Audi or a Volkswagen Mercedes dealer. And anyway, I befriended her and she said, I want you to come to work for me. I said, I don't know anything about selling cars. She said,
Yeah.
you understand relationships.
Yeah.
She
That's
said, I
key.
need so I did. I went to work for her, and we opened her Porsche Audi. We were number one in worldwide distributors for 22 straight months from the day we opened. We beat everybody. And then Rolls-Royce called me and wanted me to go to work for them and for the service stop between New York and Chicago. They said, you're only going to get 7 cars a year, and then yada, yada, a little town of 1,800 people. So anyway, I worked it out and sold 93 cars that year.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
We had the used car business, used Rolls-Royce business. I mean, anyway, now it went. And then And then after that, that dealer, anyway, then I bought my own situation in Florida. Then I sold that. And then I was pretty much retired. I was 35. And then a guy called me and wanted me to invest in pinball machines. He had Pac-Man, Pac-Man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He said, this is going to be a big thing. I got the state of Florida. I said, this is a fad. And you're going to end up with a lot of machines or a warehouse full of quarters, one or the other.
Mhm.
I said, what are you doing with the Rob Report? Which was a little newsletter for people that had older Rollses. And I had bought a couple of Rollses by that older ones, collectors. He said, what do you mean? I said, you ought to turn it into a magazine. He's like, what? I said, let me make some calls. I know everybody in the car business now. I called him back. I said, I've sold $35,000 worth of ads. We need to get publishing quick.
Mhm.
We did. And of course, we won every publishing award there was to win. And 4.5 years later, 5 years, basically, we had a deal. I'd buy him out. He'd buy me out. And we have a liquidity event. So we sold it. And Acting Cable, and which ended up Curtis Public Company, California. And then I was done. And then people called me and said, would you come and speak about how you took 600 people that subscribed to a newsletter? This is even before the internet was what it is today. Basically, with a fax machine, built it up to 50,000 subscribers in 4 years. It was all marketing, and I related to the people. Well, how'd you do that? So I spoke at a conference in San Diego. There was about 2,000 people, an insurance conference. And I just did it for a favor for the guy. He said, I want you to speak at a lamp meeting. I said, I don't know anything about lamps. He said, no, no, no. It's Life Agency Manager Program. I said, well, what do you want me to speak about? He said, just come and talk about how you market and how you
Mhm.
connect to these consumers, particularly wealthy ones. So I spoke for, I don't know, 30 minutes, and then Q&A. They finally had to stop. I mean, I did like 40 minutes of Q&A. And I mean, just, it's a convention. You don't have that time.
Mhm.
And then I had 20, I booked 22 CMOs ran up at the end, and that ended up booking me to come and speak. I got 300 requests to speak that year.
Wow.
And so what I did is I went to the PBS studio in Atlanta. My buddy was running it, and I said, I have an idea. He said, what? I said, I can't do all these dates. Why don't I just do a video? And if somebody calls, we'll just ship the video, because I've ordered a new boat. I'm going to the Caribbean for the rest of my life. He said, great idea. So I got going, and we did end up with 7 videos. And I thought, people would call. So I said, we'll just go to the trade show, the same trade show this year. And I'll go, and people know me from last year, and we'll just sell the videos I've done. Sold 2,200 sets that they were
Wow.
lined up. And I mean, it was a great strategy, but it was the dumbest mistake I made for trying to retire, because it exploded. I ended up with a warehouse, 2 guys full-time, just putting together boxes, shipping workbooks. And of course, now it's all online. We have about 7,000 people online every month taking courses. And it expanded into coaching, and I've got a big coaching division. Then we got into consulting, and I mean, on and on. That's a lot more story than you wanted to hear. But anyway, that's sort of how it all came about.
Yeah.
That is amazing. As you're talking, I'm, knowing what you do, and I'm just the influence that working for brands like a Mercedes, a Rolls-Royce, a Rob Report. I mean, these are brands that are known, right, for their customer experience and how they differentiate themselves in the market. What are businesses getting wrong when it comes to standing out today?
What a great question. I would say this, that it's really a matter of lack of understanding. So it's not as though that someone has decided to go this way and that's wrong. It's they're going that way without understanding what the consumer wants. So what you hear all the time is that most companies are working on making it less friction in the transaction and making it easier online. And all of those things are clearly important. And now they're trying to focus on personalization and humanization with AI, et cetera. But what they need to realize is that the consumer today is driven by a completely different matrix. And that's why I started a research division. And we actually talk to consumers. What are you really looking for? Today, we're in an experience economy. People today are happy. Their happiness is defined by the experience they have, not by the product or service that they bought. So if they have a great experience, that's what drives them to become advocates for your business. And the challenge is, the mistake is that most companies, to your question, Sean, most companies believe that a satisfied client is a great thing. Well, a satisfied client is loyalty neutral. They're satisfied, but they're not delighted necessarily. And so what companies do, and I have a situation right now. This is November. A year ago, last November, I had a phone call from a year ago. I had a call from a CEO. He had called me about a project. I talked to him about it. He called me and said, Richard, we're all set here. We just got our satisfaction scores back from our surveys. Highest in history. We're good. I'm telling you, we're good. I said, well, okay. I said, but just remember, their loyalty. I'm telling you, we're good. Okay, great. Then he called me in March. He said, well, we need your help. I said, okay, with what? He said, well, I just got the final report. We lost 13,000 here. Satisfied clients are loyalty neutral, satisfied customers. So the mistake that's made is we think satisfaction is the goal. The satisfaction should be delighted advocacy. And the way to do that is the way they're treated. Now, what are consumers really looking for? Yeah, they want frictionless this, and they want to be able to, Amazon's really solved that problem. They send you the stuff, and here's the label to send it back. That's pretty cool. But if you really think about it, I did, Truett Cathy, who was a dear friend of mine, it started Chick-fil-A.
Mhm.
Did a lot of all over the country with him. And he'd always tell me, now, Richard, remember, when you get on that stage, you remind them, we're in the people business. We're not in the chicken business. Um, so Chick-fil-A sort of set that bar. Please, thank you, and my pleasure. Now, that also tells you how far down it's come in terms of interaction. Typically, one is a high standard. Please, thank you, and my pleasure. When I wrote my latest book, I did interviews with people sitting in line at Chick-fil-A. Why are you Chick-fil-A?
Yeah.
Because, and Dan had told me, Dan Kennedy said, it's not going to be the chicken. I said, I don't know, it's not going to be the chicken, but I want to hear it firsthand. And
Yeah.
that's why I'd say, why are you here? Well, the chicken sandwiches are fantastic. Is that why you're here? Well, actually, they're so polite. They're so wonderful. It's
Yeah.
so pleasant to come in. They're so joyful. They're so thoughtful. They're so kind. They're so caring. So I did, I don't know, 20 cars and 3 different locations. Finally, the one car, and I asked her, she said, oh, they're so nice here. They're so caring. They're wonderful. I come in, if I'm short, I change things. And the little girl runs to the back of her seat, sticks her head between the seat and the post, and goes, and they always recognize our car and give me extra pickles.
Yes.
Therein is why Chick-fil-A is outperforming every other brand. So my point is, what are people looking for? 4 things: kindness, thoughtfulness, caring, and empathy.
Yeah.
Full stop.
Yeah.
That's what they
Yeah.
want. You deliver that in the experience, you win the business. You do. You end up with delighted advocates. And here's what happened. I'm going to give you a phrase that I've been working on. In the social media world, you become world worthy. And people start to talk about you when you're not there. If you think about what is social media really about, and people
Mhm.
complain, social media. What they're complaining about is that people aren't advocating on their behalf. And the reason or not, because the experience is what people talk about. And if I just have a mediocre experience, then I don't talk about your brand, do I? No, of course not.
Mhm.
If I have a bad experience, I'll talk about your brand, but I'm not going to talk about it in a way that's going to be very advantageous to your business.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Yeah.
therein
Right.
lies the point. The point is the whole purpose of social media is people share their experience. Here's my baby. Here's my boy. My boy. Here's what we did. This is what we had for lunch. Here's who I just met. That's what social media is all about. It's about the experience. So if you do a crappy job in experience, God bless you, you're on your way out of business and you don't even know
Mhm.
it. So you want some examples? Where do you want to start? I mean, there's many, many examples. Now, may I give you a counterpoint? Freddie Steakburger and Custard. They read one of my previous books, and Scott Redler called me. He said, Richard, he said, we'd like you to come out and, we want to really differentiate here. I said, okay. So I went out a couple of days early because I knew they were going to have me look at some stores. So I went myself and I went to my own stores first. So I got to the board and I said, here's a list of 5 stores we'd like you to go to. And I said, I've already been to 5. What do you mean you've been to 5? I said, here's some things you can improve upon. And so these are the changes that we made. And they just won the National Restaurant Award for the best fast casual in the United States. Beat everybody, Smashburger, Culver's, everybody. And then Scott sent me a text. He said they got an offer, $2.7 billion. They're going to sell the company,
Wow.
which
Wow.
is
Wow.
like a lot.
Yeah. We used to go there all the time when we lived in Texas. Like,
Mhm.
Yeah. I mean, so when you put it
yeah.
in perspective,
Mhm.
all about the experience. I mean, and
It
that's why
is.
they came up with the Freddy's Way. It's the way of
Mhm.
business to give people a great experience. Take it instead of having booths through the whole store, half of it movable tables. Why? Because as I told them, I said, because the Boy Scouts come in, the prayer group comes in, the Wednesday night service people come in from church and all, they want to sit together. And guess what? Because they did chairs over here, chairs over there, chairs over here, chairs over here. People had their own little community within the stores.
All relationship driven. Yeah. So, kind of shifting a little bit to there's a lot of talk about automation right now with AI, all that. So, in a world that's driven by kind of like that unrelationship worthy. People want to automate their businesses, which is amazing. It's an amazing tool. How can business owners kind of keep that human element at the core of their customer journey when, we're driven right now by efficiency and automation and AI?
Well, what a wonderful question. I've been working with AI since I'll say that, 2000, I have a client in Mumbai, India. It wasn't AI in those days. We were just trying to figure out automation.
Yes.
They had like they had less than that, 3,000. We have 30,000 customers now. And so we've grown that business pretty good. They're pretty excited and got it. But the important thing is this. The point that I try to get and I get a lot of calls from people in that world about we're automating, but we want to more humanize, personalize, et cetera. Then you got to change this. This is the head trash. The head trash is, I ask them, what are you using for a CRM? A lot of people say, I'm using Salesforce. Great. But how are you using it? Well, we're logging transactions and et cetera, et cetera. You need to look at your CRM because that's what's going into AI, right? AI is going through that matrix. Now you need to turn it into a CXM, customer experience manager. Set up definable fields for special things. Send special example. Let's say, Kelly, just for today's discussion, let's say Shawn was a registered nurse. I would put that in the database and I would program my AI to say, I want you to pick out every registered nurse in the month of May, which is registered nurse month. And I want to make sure that Shawn gets a special gift from our firm.
I love that.
Nice.
Now, what would
Yeah.
Shawn think? Oh my God, I can't believe it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But instead of that, what do we do? What do we do?
Nothing.
Nothing.
We just send newsletters and kind of impersonal communication.
Now, I'm going to give you one. There's a donut shop that I helped here in Sarasota. 50 Donuts. It's right next to the police station. 50.
Love it.
Our tagline is arrestingly good donuts.
Love it. Lean
That's
into that
amazing.
marketing.
Heck
They
yeah.
open at 5:30 in the morning, and if you're not there at 7:38, forget about it. You can't get one. So what do we do? Well, what most companies do, they track when you buy the transaction, but that's the last thing, right? It goes in. So what do we do with AI? I bought my first donut there August 4th, 2019. Now, that was in their CRM, but now we changed it into a CXM. Every August 4th, I get on my phone. Congratulations, squad member, another successful year. $5 off your next order of donuts.
There you
Wow.
go.
That's how you use AI.
Rewarding the customer. And I think some of that's getting lost too. I hear a lot of ads about like, hey, if you switch to X service provider, you're going to get, $50 off. And I'm just like, wait, I've been with that service provider for 10 years. I don't even get a coupon,
Yeah. Competitor capture bonus.
Yes.
The auto industry's famous for, if you're driving a Chevy and you buy a Ford, we'll give you $1,200.
Right.
I'd rather just give you $1,200.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for driving our car for this long and being a loyal.
Thank you. AI has great, it increases our ability to personalize
Absolutely.
and humanize, providing we're looking at our CRM as a CXM, customer experience manager. How can I manage the experience more effectively? Let's say, as an example, you went into a store and you had a grandchild. We'll just give you an illustration. Okay. You go in and you say, I want to buy something for my grandson. He's 8 years old and he loves trains. So you say, great. And what's his name? His name is Billy, and he loves trains, and this is really good. And so we find him something good. Now, what needs to happen, that needs to go right into the database right there. Billy loves trains, and his birthday, I don't know what today is. I think it's whatever it is. Let's say today's date. So we got today's date. All right, good. Now, 6 weeks before this date next year, I should get from that company a little catalog specifically for Billy to that consumer. It said, we know Billy loves trains. Here's some things that he might also enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
Now, here's 4 or 5 other things you might consider, Grandma. And guess what's going to happen? Click, 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 click. Thank you.
Yep. Exactly.
That's how you use AI.
Yeah. Yeah. Love it.
That's amazing. I love that. And just that extra human touch point, right? I think that's really important. Kind of shifting gears a little bit, you've had this very long 35 plus year career and doing some of these consulting pieces and working with these companies, what was one moment in your journey that tested your belief in yourself or the mission you were trying to get behind, and what helped you push through it?
Interesting. Again, a wonderful question. Well, first, I would just say this, not from an ego. We're very careful of projects we take. I'm not going to take it just to take it. Uh, I mean, there's been times I wanted to take it because we needed it, but I didn't take it. Okay, just as we all have. Maybe the one was a bank in Israel. It was, I knew I could help them, but I knew, and I had to go before the board and present, which I did. And it was a almost contentious board meeting in the sense that there were people that saw the light and other people that saw the light but didn't see me in the light. So it was kind of like, well, how can you do that? And what can you do here? And how could you do that? I mean, it was wonderful because I'm used to those kind of conversations, but to be in that dynamic for what was going to be a 30-minute presentation turned into 3.5 hours, that's a little different, you know? And then the CEO said, well, Richard, thank you so much. Let's have you step out in the hall. We'll be making a decision here shortly. And I stepped out and for a moment, I thought, did I really convey how I could help them?
Mm-hmm.
And I was grateful I hadn't lost my composure, but I kind of questioned, I was like, did I communicate? Am I solving their problem with that which it is that I've said? That's where my brain was.
Mm-hmm.
And it was about 6 minutes. The EVP came out and said, Richard, the board would like to speak to you. And I mean, it was like, come on, that is incorrect. This guy cannot do that. Do you understand me? I'm telling you, I can tell from his presentation, it's going to be impossible for him to do this. And then Kelly said, well, I think you can, Richard. I don't care what you think. I mean, it was that kind of a environment for 3 hours.
Wow.
Yeah.
Say, Richard, can you prove to us that you can do that? I mean, this is a major operation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I come in 6 minutes and the board stood up, standing ovation. You ran the gauntlet. We think you can help us.
Wow.
So we did a rebrand, did some things around the customer experience. And little less than 5 months, we were up 800 million.
It's amazing.
That
And
is amazing.
But yeah, I never want to make it about me. What is may I give you an example of a flip on that? Well, my previous book, I've written 3 international bestsellers, how that happens, just happens. But my book prior to this current one, I was at a book launch, et cetera, in Florida. And this guy came up to me and he's telling me about his restaurant. He said, we really struggle. My previous book, The Power of Why, Breaking Out in a Competitive Marketplace. He said, I'm right in the heart of the financial district in Fort Lauderdale. All these brokers and everybody pour out of their meetings at their day and they come for lunch and they're, going to restaurants and my place is half empty. I can't understand why they go all these other places, et cetera. He said, I'm all the way down at the end of the walkway. So he said, they just stop in these other places that are closer. I said, well, what are the people doing when they come into your restaurant? He said, well, they're having lunch. I said, no, but what are they doing? He said, what do you mean they're having lunch? I said, okay. I said, what are they doing? Are they sitting there praying? What are they? Oh, he said, oh, no. He said, they come in, first thing they do, they're on their phones. I said, oh. I said, well, there's your answer. He's like, what? I said, there's your answer. He said, what are you talking about? I said, the reason they're in there and they're on their phones. Imagine if everybody could come in and charge their phones when they're at lunch.
Mm-hmm.
I said, lay out this restaurant. He drew it on a piece. I said, I'd put a circuit wall all around. Every single table and booth have it. Do stanchions through the floor, and so people can plug in. And then have your wait staff walk up with a whole bunch of cords and have it in red with your tag name on it. And do you need a cord to charge your phone?
Well, that's a good idea.
We're packed. People are waiting to get in.
That customer
That's
experience
crazy.
goes a long
Yeah.
way.
It's about them.
Mm-hmm.
It's the experience they have. I can have a burger pretty much anywhere, but what's why Chick-fil-A does so well? Because the experience is extraordinary.
Yeah. There was something you mentioned that I want to touch on for a minute when you talked about, like, there were moments in your business where it was a struggle and you were talking to clients, but you decided they weren't the right fit for you, right? And I think there's something for business owners in there that even when things are bad, you have to know who your client is and who your client isn't. And maybe you could expound a little bit more on that piece, because I think so many business owners get caught up in it's the money, it's the money, it's the money, but then they end up helping clients that they shouldn't have helped in the first place and didn't really move the client forward.
Yeah, well, this is two parts that I would say is maybe drives my thought process. The initial discovery call, people go to LinkedIn and they connect with me or they go to a website or well, I just get an email. We're dealing with this and we like to, I just had one from a guy and people would tell him about it. And on that call, I ask him a couple of things. What do you want to accomplish? Why do you want to accomplish it? So let's just say that you're in a business that's not a service business. Let's say you're in a different kind of business and somebody calls you and they want to quote on a new air conditioner. And you can say, well, what type of air conditioner are you looking for? And why do you want a brand new one? And what do you listen for? I listen to what they're saying. When they say things, well, I'm really looking for one, but I don't want to spend a lot of money. I'm looking for one. I've been shopping around. I've been looking for one and, I'm really not sure what I want to buy, but my friend told me that there's a lot of deals out there. And I heard that you guys sometimes do starting to get to filter. Now, on the service side of business, this is the word I listen for. Well, yeah, we'd really like to work with you. We really want to try to get better. If you only want to try to get better, we're not the right fit. I have a sign right there that says, try is dead, will do, killed it. That's it. And I'll tell him I appreciate that. And I'm grateful that you're for your call. And I in no way want to judge you, but I will tell you that you really need to consider what you want to do and make a clear decision with your business that you're no longer going to try to get better, but you are going to get better. And if you're willing to do every single thing I tell you to do, and my team tells you to do, we're going to help you get better.
Mhm.
Give you a good example. I got a guy out in Montana, and when he was trying to elevate the experience in his office using financial services. And I said, okay, you need to put in China cups and saucers and elevate the experience. He said, my clients are ranchers. That's crap. I said, well, our accountability program. He said, yes. I said, either do what I tell you to do, or I keep your money and never take your call again. So it's a real simple accountability program. He says, well, I
Yeah.
think, so he said, so he sends me, I had her go out and buy some China cups and saucers at the outlet, all cost me $100 damn. I'll talk to you next call. 3 days later, he sends me an email. Oh my God. I have my best clients in here. I try to serve them coffee and that was China cups and saucers. I was sort of right. Their thumbs were too big to go through them tiny little handles, and they drank out of them like they're mugs. But he turned to his wife and said, honey, we got the most sophisticated financial advisor in the entire state of Montana. He said, Richard, best $100 of marketing I've ever spent.
It's so much about the perception, right? That the perception that you create for somebody. And I go back to just your experience at Mercedes and Rolls-Royce and Rob Report. Like I remember as a kid picking up my first Rob Report at like 12 or 13 years old and just falling in love with the magazine, right?
Yeah.
Because you've got just all these amazing cars listed in there and they're just laid out page after page after page after page of where you can buy them, great articles and all those things. And I remember the perception that like, if you can buy from a Rob Report, right?
Magazine for the affluent lifestyle.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. And so I just, yeah, I love that idea of just, you're creating the perception that there's some differentiator there, even as something as simple as the China, for a guy in the country, right? Literally, in Montana, yeah, you get a lot of farmers and things like that, but that created the perception that they're a class above for a different reason because of that, right?
Absolutely right. I mean, it's little things. If you got a conference room in your financial business, don't have your clients look out. If it's got a glass wall that's out in the hallway, don't have them sit here looking out into the hallway. Turn them around so they're looking in, because otherwise they're nervous about the fact that people can see them, have them look
Yeah.
in. And, when you sign your email, sign them warm regards or kind regards. Don't ever sign it best. It's the number one most disliked. And the second most disliked is sincerely yours. So let's not use those either. Okay. And stop telling people to feel free to do anything. Tell them to feel welcome to do it. Feel welcome to call me. And don't follow up with people. Just email them and say, here's our next steps, because adults want steps.
Yeah.
I mean, I've written a whole book on this, 100 proven ways to acquire and keep clients for life. Based on what? Talking to people and say, if I want to build a relationship with you, what should I do? Well, stop sending me emails that say this. Know what my real name is. I have a good friend in Atlanta. She's a very wealthy woman. Her name is Elizabeth. If you call her Elizabeth, she won't turn around. She goes by Lolly. Now, why do we go? It's because when she was 4 years old, her grandfather started calling her Lolly because she likes lollipops. She's 88. She just had her 88th birthday party. I went to it. The big banner says, happy birthday, Lolly.
Lolly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whew. So, Richard, what is next for you, and what lessons do you hope the people who are listening take away from today's story?
Well, what's next for me? I'll just keep it going till the good Lord says, let's not go anymore. And I've been very fortunate. I'm really purpose driven. I mean, I just want to help people. And I mean, I'm fortunate enough I could have, let's just say, pulled back on the throttles a long time ago. And, but, I have a home in Florida, and we work at, offices in Florida. I have a home in Honolulu because we do a lot of work in Asia too. So, but I think the lessons, if they're lessons, maybe things for people to consider. I just realize that the more thoughtful, kind, caring, and empathetic you are with people, individuals with whom you do business, the more you're going to establish a relationship with them. So that'd be the first thing. The second thing is to realize that people today fall in love with the experience. We fall in love with our products and our services, and we should. I mean, you should be passionate about that, what you do, should do on
Right.
behalf of others. But what you have to realize, they fall in love with the outcome and the experience they have with those product services and dealing with you. So that's the second thing. And maybe the third and larger thing that's important is I would just encourage everyone to realize it all works out in the end. If it hasn't worked out, so there was a great movie about this. It was something Marigold Hotel in India, and it was a wonder. And there was a line, it all works out in the end. If it hasn't worked out, it's not the end. Yeah, very easy to get caught up in what's not working. Focus on what is working and work on what you're really good at. And you can say, "Well, I'm good at everything." Well, that'll be your demise. But you
Hmm.
just figure out what you're really good at. Maybe most importantly, what brings you joy and helping people to move forward. So those maybe are lessons, I guess. And the other I would say is this, this book in Oxford, they gave me an old Oxford dictionary. I do Oxford and Anderson School every year for their graduating class. And I, they gave me an Oxford dictionary written in 1827.
Wow.
And one of the students at the very end, he raised his hand. He said, "Can you define what it means to be authentic?" Which, of course, is a word that gets thrown around today like cotton candy. I said, "Well, I can define it, but let's see what my Oxford dictionary you all just gave me says." So I look up authentic, it says genuine.
Mm.
I turn over to genuine, and it says not counterfeit.
Yeah.
And that's what I would say to people. Just be who you are. You're not
Mm.
going to win everybody over. Not everybody
Be
like
your real self.
Yeah.
just be who
Yeah.
you just, stop with all this facade crap. But, well, I want to be my authentic self. Well, just be you. Okay. Just, not everybody's gonna like you. It's okay,
Hmm.
it can happen. They don't
Yeah.
use services again, they don't do business with you. I was selling door to door. I learned real quick the next prospect was right next door. I'll tell you one quick story in the ending, though. I was with a guy, we were up in Canada selling insulation door to door. I was training a whole group of people, and the guy's name was Laurie. He's a great sales guy, big old fella. We knocked down the door, and this guy, "Whoa, arr, arr, arr. Get off my." Okay, so we got off the front stoop. I'm starting to down the sidewalk to the street. Lori starts down the driveway towards the guy's garage. I said, "Where are you going?" He said, "Well, let's see if the guy at the back door is a little more friendly than the guy at the front door." Knocks on the door, and the guy comes, and he said, "I thought I told you." And so Lori said, "Oh, I was hoping I'd get a different guy at this door." We got in the house, sold the guy insulation.
Wow.
It's a great lesson.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So, how do people find you? If they're interested in your books, your services, all of that
Well,
stuff. You have a lot.
yeah, Richard Weylman, and I'll spell it for you. It's, check in a hotel, they say, "Can you spell your name?" Okay, so here we go. Weylman, WEYLMAN.com. RichardWeylman.com. I'm on LinkedIn too, of course. You can go there. There's a
Yes.
contact button. Just click it. There's a little tiny form. I don't ask you, like, what day were you born and, what color's your house and all that crap they make you fill out.
Right.
Just fill it out. Like to talk about, boom, send it to me. And I respond to every single inquiry. So that's, we
That's
use
part of
AI.
your
Pardon?
It's part of your customer experience, making sure and the
Yeah. I mean,
valuing
it's just so nobody
relationships.
has, and you can subscribe to my newsletter. I got about 50, I don't know, 50 some thousand people that get it. I do it every 2 weeks or so when I'm in the mood.
Yeah,
And
that's great. That's
anyway, so
great.
but listen, if I can help you in some way, feel welcome to reach out to me. That's good. My latest book, is number one on Amazon in 3 categories: 100 proven ways to acquire and keep clients for life. And Forbes just said in the top 10 business book last year. So that's all good.
That's
That's not
awesome.
important to me. What's important to me is if you read this book, it's written tactically, specific things you could do to strengthen the relationships with your client and customer base, how you can really get prospects to move from one side of the table to your side of the table. And most importantly, it really helps you to build lifetime value with the client. People
Mhm.
in this country who have businesses don't think enough about LTV, lifetime value. It's hard work to get a new customer. So why do we lose them? Because we don't cultivate them. It's like a garden. You have to stay in touch and cultivate these people. So work on the LTV, lifetime value. That's where the real value in a business is. I hope this was helpful for you.
Yes, yes, it was. Richard, thank you so much for reminding us that business just isn't really all about strategies, it's about people
Yeah.
and showing up, standing out, making others feel seen, valued, heard. And you're a really great example of that intentional leadership in that way, building those relationships. So if you're listening, be sure to check out Richard's work. Go follow him on LinkedIn. Check out his books. And remember, we are all better together. And that empathy and kindness just goes so far in business too. So, all
Thank you.
right. Well, thank you, Richard.
Thank you very much, Kelly and Shawn. Thank you so much, and I appreciate it. Great questions today, ones I have never been asked before.
Oh, nice experience.
Okay, God bless you. Take care, everyone. Take
Thank
care.
you.
Thanks. Take care.
Bye for now.